Me? Runs with fire? In the girls' sixth form dorm of Scholarmans at 3 a.m. in the morning? With my reputation? Ding dong.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. As you can see, my beard is full and bushy, which means it must be time for yet another Runs with Fire vlog. Obviously, a lot of things have happened this week, most notably the release of Firelands patch 4.2, and we're going to have a quick overview of that. We're also going to have a very quick overview on, he says as he looks at his notes very quickly, some of the community news that's going on, a quick look at some of the forum topics that have been hot this week, as they say, and a couple of interesting bits and pieces. I also promise that this week there will be at least 50% more clothing than compared to the introduction vlog. Now this is my first sort of proper attempt at vlogging. I apologise if it cuts a little bit and swaps about. I will hopefully in the post-editing process smooth some of those bumps, but please do bear with me. Hopefully things will improve as I do more of these, and hopefully you'll just take these as the happy little quirks of a crazy troll mage who kind of potters about and does stuff. Yeah. So without further ado, let's get started. Obviously, as I mentioned earlier, patch 4.2 is now live on the servers, as I'm sure you're all aware. For the US, that went live last Tuesday, and for EU servers, that was live on Wednesday. Now, obviously, there's a lot of things in this patch. Now, before the patch went live, there was a lot of concern that this really wasn't going to be a content-heavy patch. There were a number of complaints, unjustified complaints really, considering a lot of people hadn't seen or accessed the PTR, that 8 or 9 raid bosses wasn't really enough. Where was Blizzard spending the time and the effort with the development? I'm using the word a lot, excuse me. And yeah, these were very real concerns amongst a lot of the player bases, you know. And of course we have the usual forum trolls that came out, said, well, you know, Blizzard is working on Titan, how is this going to affect, Warcraft is now effectively on life support, to which I say, you're a fucking moron, really, because how could Activision Blizzard, what part of their business plan where the largest source of their income across all formats is actually World of Warcraft and the subscriptions that are paid into that. So what part of the sensible business plan would have that on life support just ticking over until the next MMO? It doesn't actually make sense. And you can really see that with patch 4.2. There's an awful lot of content in there. Yes, there's only 9 raid bosses. Yes, that can be a bit of a blow to some of the progression raiders who really judge their progress and their enjoyment in the game through the high-end raids. But there's a lot more in there for players individually, and there's a lot more things for guilds together as a group can actually do and work on there. So yeah, I think those early complaints that patch 4.2, when it hadn't even been released, was a bit of a crock, were unjustified. And hopefully those people are kind of eating their words. And it appears that they have, actually. Most of the forum posts about patch 4.2 have been extremely positive. All saying how fantastic they are and how well it's been done. So let's have a look at some of those features then. Again, he looks at his notes because he's entirely unprofessional. Okay, first up we've got the Dungeon Journal. Now the Dungeon Journal is obviously a new feature which has been introduced with patch 4.2, and basically, if you haven't seen it already, it should now be down on your little hotbar next to the options button, and it gives us, or gives the players, a chance to look at the raid content and the heroic dungeon content of WoW Cataclysm. Now what it does, it goes through the bosses of each of these dungeons and raids, and it tells you a little bit of lore about them, which I think is always a good thing. It helps connect players to the bosses and why they're fighting them, but also it gives you their attacks, their phases, things like that. Now this is actually a very positive move in my opinion. It's not going to invalidate add-ons like deadly boss mods or anything like that, because it doesn't actually tell you the strategies of how to defeat the boss. It just gives you an insight on what the boss attacks are, so that you can plan, or raid leaders can plan ahead of time how to deal with each of those attacks. It's a very, very cushy system. It looks beautiful, and if you haven't had a nosy at it already, then I suggest you do so. We're also aware that there are a number of new features within patch 4.2, a number of new featured items in particular. Now this is something that's very dear to my heart, not least because I spend a silly amount of money on things like the WoW trading card game to get all the shiny loot cards. I have the Ogre Pinata, the Disco Ball, the Spectral Tiger riding, not the proper one, the Sandbox Spectral Tiger, the fishing chair, all sorts of random crap which my character specifically carries around in his bags at all times, so I can throw an impromptu party for my guildies, because that's the kind of crazy mofo that I am. So yes, there's a number of these new sorts of cosmetic items within patch 4.2, and I love these. There are at least 3 new mounts specific from the Firelands raid content. 2 of them are from bosses. One is from achieving the Hero of the Firelands achievement, whatever that's actually called now. There's also a number of other mounts, epic mounts available from other sorts of achievements and drops from Fireland content, which is good, and also the new PvP mounts, the achievement there. There's also about 8 new mini pets that are available. These are available from a variety of different sources. This includes daily vendors, a number of achievement pet record, and importantly, you also get them for the pet achievements. Now for, I believe it's 100, which you get the squirrel, 125, where you get a new sort of bird thing, he says, and then I think the last one is 150, which is the celestial dragon, which is kind of nice. Again, being a big pet hunter, I love this sort of stuff, and very, very positive on this from my own personal view. I think it's a lot of fun. Pet hunting is one of those things, if you are a casual player, or even if you're a raider, but you know you're in between raids, you've got some downtime on a Saturday or a Sunday or something. Pet hunting is a nice little hobby. I'm personally big on mini pets. That's just me. So yeah, that's pretty much some of the highlights from patch 4.2. I'm not going to go through everything on 4.2 because I'm sure most of you have been playing it the last 2-3 days. One of the things that I do want to mention very quickly on it though, and that I think is very, very important, excuse me, but I think is very, very important and hasn't really been reported on a lot as far as I can see, is that the new Firelands daily content is personal progression based. Now what that means is it's not like the Argent Tournament or the Anchorage stuff before that. It's what you see through these phase periods, the quests that are available, are entirely based on your personal character's progression. Okay, how many marks they've done, what quests in the quest chain they've managed to achieve. And there's also choices in that. As you progress through the Firelands, you're going to get several different options on which quest hubs or how you expand your personal quest hub within the Firelands. I think this is absolutely fantastic. This is something that MMOs have really had a great deal of trouble with, how to make the experience personal to you and your character. You know, and we've obviously seen a lot more content for casuals and things. WoW has changed an awful lot, and there has been a lot of complaint, certainly from some of the older players, particularly those from Vanilla and the early TBC days, that they're losing that connection with their characters because the stuff they're doing is no longer personal to them. You know, there's not the same epic quest chains that there were. Now a lot of the players all go through the same motions every day. They all run the same dailies. They all go through the same quest hubs. And this is a way of really bringing back that personal character interaction, making you have choices and be, to a certain extent, responsible for the course of your actions. You know, it's not Deus Ex, let's face it. It's not Fallout. There are no lasting moral choices, and at the end of the day, you're all going to end up in exactly the same place eventually. Although Blizzard have stated there is a randomisation element within there to hopefully break up some of that flow as well. But the fact that you can choose how your quest hub expands on a personal basis is a very, very good move. And it's a way of keeping the player base engaged in this content, and it's very, very smart move, I think, by Blizzard. Obviously, the other thing to mention, of course, is the fact that the old content is being nerfed, and I think the estimates for that are around 25% reduction in difficulty to damage. I don't really know how they work that out. Personally, I'm not a big fan of this. I've mentioned this before on the blog. It's not really my bag. I personally like to do the content as is. I think content should stay the same. You know, it should be, you know, accepting obviously balancing issues and things like that. You shouldn't just nerf content because the new level of content is out. There's a natural nerf anyway because you can get the new tier sets from the Justice and Valor points, which is naturally going to make the older content easier anyway. So why did they have to add this additional nerf? That being said, there are some very good and valid arguments. I can see the reasons why Blizzard do it. They want to allow more content for the casual player. They want the previous tier to be puggable. At least, again, it's a way of separating out those progression raiders who are working their way through the Firelands content. And then obviously onto the heroic modes. And those casual players that haven't been able to pug the older content from Cataclysm now have that opportunity to do so. And it's I don't want to sound like I have a downer on pugs. I certainly pugged certain raids during Wrath of the Lich King when there were no raids going on in Guild for that week. And you know, pugging is a good thing, and it's something that's been lost during Cataclysm. I'm just not overly fond of a blanket nerf. I think there are better ways of doing it. Obviously, the Ice Crown 30% or gradual 30% buff, which you could turn off if you wanted to, was a better way of doing that sort of thing. And of course, as I mentioned, you've got the natural gear buffs, which comes with every new tier of content. So that's pretty much patch 4.2. You're all very much aware of that, and I hope you enjoyed playing that.